Hello, YouTubers. I just killed a mosquito. We have been beset by mosquitoes lately because, despite the fact it is relatively hot and not raining, and intensely humid, though, about 7 or 8 days ago, or somewhat longer, it had been raining for quite some time, off and on. And so now, as the water's gone down in the creek, the mosquitoes are hatching. And, well, you can't go out at night at all. It's just, even if you slather up and burn all the bug candles and things, it's, no, you're just going to get drained of bodily fluids. But even during the day, they're bad, which is, and I don't like to spray up this stuff. I don't like to put that stuff on me. But I just don't like to put that stuff on me. I do when I have to, but I don't have to. Plus, it's a lot cooler in the house. I've got the metal roof and the fans going, and we've been soldiering through this heat wave, which hasn't been nearly as hot as some heat waves we've had in the past. So this is not, this is not all that bad. But as I've progressed in life, and particularly when you're on these ACE inhibitors for blood pressure, among other things, I find I don't tolerate. Well, I've never tolerated the heat very well at all, ever since I was a kid. I think I got, not heat stroke, but I got several episodes of heat exhaustion over the years, and that sort of reset my thermostat. And I'm now basically, you get me much over about 75, to me that's hot. Well, be that as it may, so, step out on the porch, get bitten, walk around on the porch and get bitten several times. That happens. So you come in and then you spend time on the device. So that pretty much accounts for my time the last, 4 days since I've talked to y'all. But nonetheless, there have been some things happening. This particular week is the week of the British Open, or as they call it, the Open. But I've always called it the British Open. That's what I grew up hearing it called. And I don't play golf. I've only played one round of golf in my life. But I do like to watch golf, and I particularly like to watch the big, the major tournaments. I particularly like to watch the British Open. Because the one place I played golf was at St. Andrews, believe it or not, in 1971. My buddy and I were over there for 2 months in the summer. Well, we were 1 month in Great Britain and then 1 month in Europe. Well, Western Europe. Then. And we went to St. Andrews, and just for the heck of it, we were joking around. We had no idea this could actually happen. And so we went in, look, we've got our backpacks, basically we took like 2 pair of jeans and like 3 shirts for the entire trip. We got an army blanket in the back. This is how we traveled, guys. And we walk into this royal and ancient golf club, of St. Andrews, course house, whatever you call it. And so we were wondering if we could play around the golf. And I thought we'd be just chucked out of there immediately. No, the guy said, yes, of course you can. He says it's for visitors, for walk-ons on I think it was called the new course, or the cheapest course, whatever it was called then. I think it was still called the new course, which at that time probably was a relatively new course. So that's like what was it? It was it wasn't £5. Oh, it was the equivalent of $5 US, which at that point would have been around, £2.50 or £2, or, it was, well, in today's dollars, if you adjust it for inflation, it's uh, 5 US dollars. It's around $35. That's still a pretty good deal, isn't it? You think about it. And uh, so we, you could rent a set of clubs. They gave you a set of 8 clubs. And now my buddy Brad had played golf before a few times with, his mother played golf, and his dad occasionally played golf, and his uncle played golf. But I sort of knew about the idea of golf, but I had never in so much as, one time in my life swung a golf club. And so we go out, and and amazingly, we were like the only people in sight. Now this is around maybe about 9:45 in the morning, which that's kind of early for the British to get started. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe now they're very industrious. Maybe now they get up very early and get right to it. But the 4 times I've been over there, nothing seems to really get going until they're around 9 or 9:30. And people don't get up till like 8. Well, they didn't then. I don't know what they do now. But anyway, so we're out there, and and there's nobody there. Of course, it's windy as all get out. It's this beautiful. Watch if you can watch the British Open, you'll see what it looks like. And you've got these. Basically, it looked like the fields that were let to lie fallow where I grew up. I felt right at home. You're taking a walk through a field that has been farmed this year. Somebody's mowed a couple of paths through it, but that's about it. So we played 8 holes, and then by that time people were sort of coming in, behind us, and so it was clear we were, being the pebble in the path of progress. So we got off the course. But I think I shot an 88 in those 8 holes. I think Brad did a little bit better. I think he was around like a 50 or something in those 8 holes. So that was anyway. So I like to watch the British Open. So I started looking around for this on the internet. Watch the British Open. Watch the British Open. Oh yes, here live streaming of the British Open. Oh, and I'm thinking, heck, this is great. That's exactly what I want. I want live streaming of the British Open. I want to watch all 4 days. I've marked off the space on my calendar, and but no, well, there's always a catch. So you go around to these things that say you can watch a British Open live, and you can if you want to pay some money, I mean, yeah, and even my internet provider said, oh, you can watch British Open, and even in their promotional materials, on promotional materials, they just sort of bought where the outfit I was with, so in their informative materials, they said, oh, and you have one of the major sports networks manifestations. And, okay. Well, sometimes people say they're free. Well, no, guess not. Not for this one. And then there's this other thing called, it's a live streaming video site. Let's put it that way. Well, now some parts of it are free. Now, actually, since I've got involved in this, I've actually watched 2 rugby games on this thing at 5 in the morning. But no golf. Now, apparently I could watch last year's British Open in its entirety if I wished, which I might do if I'm feeling becalmed enough, but maybe not. Okay, so now, yesterday, Paul and I had some fun with this thing in the Daily Mail, and it was a story about a fellow that had booked a room in a hotel in Houston for a John Mayer concert, and on the, he'd done this online, and it said, what kind of special thing would you like in your room on your arrival? And he said, I'd like three red M&Ms lined up in a row on an end table. One for me, one for my girlfriend, and one for us to share if we get hungry at night. And I would like a picture of bacon somewhere in the room. No, a picture of bacon on the bed. He's just horsing with him, of course. Well, that's what he thought. Well, anyway, this hotel, did this. They checked in, they went up to their room, and they found these M&Ms right away. But I guess the bedroom was off on another. It was one of these, two-room things, And his girlfriend went in there and saw the picture on the bed, started laughing, and he said, "Oh," then it clicked. And they had pictures of this in the piece, and I'd show you the stuff, but I copied it all out so that Paul could take it to work at the hotel and have some fun with it at the hotel yesterday, which he did. And the reason for that is because their hotel does, or did, well, I think they still do, but they don't call it that. I can't speak for them. But when he started to work there, the first thing they told him, one of the first things they told him about was how to do these things called my ways. Because, they get a lot of people coming back, repeat business. Excuse me. They'll accommodate them. What do you want in your room in arrival? Well, usually it's like a bottle of water or an apple or some nonsense like that. I mean, hell, bottle of water. Go into the can and get a glass of water and drink some water. And I suppose you want an apple. That's okay. Put an apple on the table. Anyway. So I thought, given their tradition of these my ways, so he showed the general manager first thing out of the bat yesterday, and she had a little chuckle of it. Seems that what happened was this guy in Houston, put all this stuff out somewhere on the internet, and they got a lot of this viral stuff, and the hotel got a lot of good buzz over this stuff. And so they said they'd just give him a free room next time he wanted to come back. I guess only one free room, maybe only one free room for that. But they liked the fact they got publicity. And I was hoping, well, obviously it takes a while for these things to ferment in people's heads, but I got thinking, well, maybe Paul's outfit will cotton onto this and see the advantage of some of this internet self-promotion stuff. Anyway, who knows? So the other thing I did to occupy myself yesterday, after I realized finally I wasn't going to be able to watch the British Open, was I decided to watch this, in the light of the royal assent, which is very much pro forma, I guess, unless you want to have a major constitutional crisis over in Britain, to this same-sex marriage bill over there. I thought, well, let's just watch the final debate in the House of Commons. And so I went over to the House of Commons website and watched this. And talk about going out with a whimper, not a bang. You had maybe about 30 people in the chamber, and basically they were debating the Lord's amendment. This was the third reading, and the Lords had sent their amendments over to the House of Commons, and the motion was, should they accept the Lord's amendments? Well, there were actually two groups of motions, one that didn't involve budgetary effect, and the others that did. And the one that the issue that got the most, well, it wasn't debate, but just everybody having their say, because this was, obviously this was going to pass. Um, I mean, the original bill passed on the second reading in the House, and then the Lords passed the bill saying that they would do amendments, and then they passed their amendments with basically just saying, here's the amendments, and they didn't even they didn't do a division. It was just like a voice vote. And so here they get these amendments, and should they adopt the amendments? But the issue was about people who don't agree with this. People don't agree with this, and they're in some sort of whether they're in a responsible position or not. If people get up in public and say they don't agree with this, are they going to be prosecuted under these various you can't say this, you can't say that laws they have over there? Because they don't have free speech over there. They say they do, but they really don't. They don't have First Amendment protection like we do over here. And, oh, well, we're going to be sure, yeah. So it passed. So when on the vote of, they did vote on the first two amendments of the Lords, and I think the one that was really at issue was number one. And the speaker, this John Burkham, I get a huge charge out of this guy, and he says, all those in favor say aye, and aye, and all those in favor say nay, and there's nay. And usually, it seems to me when I've watched this, he calls for a division. Well, this would have been a very small division, although people could have filed in from all sides, I suppose, who sitting outside having a drink or doing whatever they do when they're not in the chamber. And he sort of, then the ayes start going, ah, and he sort of listens again to see if the nays say anything, and they don't say anything. He says, well, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. So, poof, that's it. So then the budgetary amendments passed, no problem there. I mean, those were very pro forma, and that was it. So off to the Queen it goes, and she sort of, gave it the assent there, waved her hand over it, and so here's this law, which may or not be a good law, but whether it's a good law or not, it's certainly going to have unintended consequences. So we shall see on that. Okay, well, that covers that. Now, this morning, I'd been up, I'd pretty much finished reading the Wall Street Journal online and, perusing the Daily Mail, what child got horribly beaten up and killed by its parent stories online. Well, I don't read those, but you have to sort of scroll past them. Five-year-old run over by 16-year-old unlicensed sibling in their driveway. That sort of stuff. Complete with pictures. Video at 11. It's not as bad as standing in line at the grocery store, because at least you don't have to look actually at all of the various tabloid rags. But sometimes though they actually have some interesting reporting in there. Well, anyway, so I did that. So firing up the machine again after the morning rugby match. I did a time machine backup. My word, 6.5 gigabytes. That took a bit of a while to, get onto that G drive that I've got. And so did that, and then the rector called me at 8:10, and well, it's very fortunate that he called me then, because I might have been otherwise tied up. Let's put it that way. So in this little colloquy, um, for about 10 minutes. It's always good to hear from the rector. He had a couple of updates on our prayer list, and as he called it, our walking wounded, which I thought was a good way to put it. And we discussed our new deacon's sermon on Sunday, which I thought she did a very good job. And he says, "Have you told her that?" I said, "Yes. Yes, I told her that." So that was that. That was that. And and it turns out our regular organist has been on vacation. He's been cruising down the Danube on one of these river cruises, and he's got a good bud in Switzerland who is actually a world-renowned organist. This guy, teaches organ, and he's on these international juries for organ competitions, and he's a professional organist at one of these state-run. It's a it's a church in Switzerland, but it's one of these reformed. It's a Protestant church in Switzerland, and this guy came over and played an evensong for us here back in October, and so he flew over to take care of our organist's cat while he's on this trip, and boy, wow, he's just blown us out of the water here the last 2 Sundays. But Daniel's back on this coming Sunday, and but this fella, I can say his name. He's a public figure, Martin Kasparic. He said that he would be glad to come back and do as a supply organist, a fill-in organist, whenever we need it. I mean, the idea of this guy just sort of flying over from Switzerland to do this, sort of 2.5-hour gig on Sunday morning is just amazes me. And I said to the rector, I take it our $160, supply organist fee doesn't quite cover all his airfare on some of this stuff. But that'll be interesting. The guy said that at this church that he goes where he works for. Well, yes, he works for the church, but it's a state-supported church because a lot of the churches in Europe are supported by state funds. And he said for Easter communion, they had communion. Well, at least they had communion, but it wasn't like they did bread and wine, which of course is sort of the New Testament institution of the communion service. They had a bowl of pea soup on the altar, and they dished out pea soup for communion. Well, that's all well and good downstairs, or in the fellowship room or the meeting room after the service, but I don't think that's The only other sort of potentially biblically sanctioned communion meal, other than the fact that wasn't in the institution narrative contained in Corinthians and in the Gospels that tell that account, would be perhaps fish and bread, as in feeding of the 5,000 and 4,000, and or like a grilled fish breakfast, a broiled fish breakfast, as they had in John, the last chapter of John there, and where Jesus cooks them a meal on the beach. No, they had pea soup. So I think that pretty much covers all I have to say today. Good thing too, isn't it here? So I'm going to say bye-bye now, YouTubers.